we've developed step-by-step process to connect to the energy system and the various components of that system. Those components oftentimes are looked at as being separate. However, they're connected in one system, you can say. Almost like the digestive system has various different kinds of organs. The energy system has different manifestations, such as chakras, such as the acupuncture meridians. And so we can look at the synchronizing and aligning of those different components at different levels. So there's a more surface level where we can release constrictions in the muscular, soft tissue systems. We can help the body through various techniques to align the bone structure. But then we can go to a deeper level and find forces that can be adjusted through awareness, just the awareness alone, and even dialogue. And that can be releasing negative, constrictive emotional forces or forces coming from subliminal beliefs that interfere with free movement in our life process. And then there's the level where we really take the deep dive. We go deep into where other practitioners, doctors can't really go. And the way the healing takes place there is not according to diagnosis and recommendation or exercise. It's through pure connection to the matrix of energy deep within the system and reorganizing that system, creating a symmetrical fluid motion within that system. So first we have to know, how do we get in? And then once we're in, what are the various methods that you can use, including improvised and creative methods that you yourself find. However, we have a spectrum of different techniques that are very good entry points and also very good intermediate and advanced techniques to work with. But that doesn't limit the fact that a person using the initial information can dive in deep within the system and discover their own way to harmonize that system. That deep dive initially takes work. It's like learning a musical instrument. When you learn a musical instrument, maybe you blow into the instrument and there's a sound comes out. It's not a very nice sound. And over time, you learn how to regulate that breath and that sound becomes more rich. And then you create sequences of sound that create melodies and then phrases, and then you have music. You have songs, tunes, or whatever you want to call them. And so it's like that. The first initial steps are like learning how to create that rich sounding note, the connection between the intention and the mind and various aspects of the energy system. And knowing what is the sensation when we're connected. So that it's not just visualizing, imagining, but we're really clear that we're in direct contact between the mind intention and those various components of the energy system. And it can take time to get clear about that, to create good, solid connection. But once you're there, you're in. And then you start to have, in the musical analogy, you start to have the tones. And then you can start to connect those tones and harmonize them. You have different layers. Even within the chakra, there's different layers of tone. Within the meridians, there's different layers of tone. You can find dissonance. You can create harmony. You can find motions in the body, as an example, the cranial motion, and find that the cranial bone is distorting in its movement. Connect to that cranial bone and its membranes and release the forces that are creating the aberrant movement and bring it back to not only a symmetrical flow, but a greater amplitude of flow. So this happens on many different levels, but that deep dive into the energy system may take this initial work and effort, but once you're in, it starts to be like the musical instrument. Once you start to make music with it, it becomes a joyful, pleasant experience. Sometimes it still is challenging, but the overall is something that you really enjoy doing. Going into that level of healing is like a place that few people dare to go, because it takes looking at the system and what it produces and what it attracts, and then becoming honest and clear with oneself about that reality and what it creates, and then being willing, if we want, to change it, to adjust it. And we then have the tools to do it. The chakra workout that we previously published is a full initial program to connect to the chakra system, discover imbalances, and to create like a general balancing and synchronizing of the whole chakra system. The upcoming program that we're presenting, which is the self-correction of the cranial sutures and the spine, is completely complementary. It just deals with another aspect that's very influential in terms of, as an example, our posture. When the spine and the vertebrae are in alignment, moving through their natural ranges of motion, it causes the body to become upright. When the body's upright, the flow of energy through the chakra, especially crown and root, which are really a connected vortex, becomes more aligned and more synchronized. So it has different layers also to what takes place. It can be very good for relieving physical symptoms, sciatic, neck discomfort, back discomfort. And so it has that more, surface layer, even though it can be very painful to have those symptoms, but it also has this secondary and beyond layers of influence, where it then influences how we receive energy and how we process energy through the system. While doing that kind of work, releasing the motions of the vertebrae in the spine, it will also release the cerebral spinal fluid and the energy flow through what we know in acupuncture as the governing vessel, that meridian which governs all other meridians. It releases that flow and information. And so while doing those processes, many different kinds of ideas and understandings come to the person. So even though you could say that's a secondary effect to the actual physical aligning and the benefits of that, it also then provides a landscape where we can have certain understandings and become aware of many different things that are useful for our life process. What we call the misalignment of a vertebrae, that force that has fixed it at a certain point and not allowed it to continue in its flow in the range of motion. And the forces that might constrict the movement of cranial bones or compress joints in the body, restrict muscles, create lesions in the fascia. All these forces have been created through different types of stimulus. It can be chemical, can be physical trauma, emotional abuse, through the belief system that a person has developed. And as those things affect our system, they create forces that are oftentimes interfering with the natural flow of information and energy through the system. The new self-adjustment technique that I'll be presenting helps to align all these different layers, but not only align them individually, but also create an environment where they can synchronize and interact together. And this brings us to a different layer of functioning, not only with the body, but also with the consciousness.